Hi everyone, I'm really happy to be here, and this project came along at just wonderful timing for me because similarly I had just found a number of materials that my family had gathered and saved that I didn't realize until I had more access to the various hidden drawers and closets of the apartment that I grew up in here in New York City. And I want to just commend the value of the community aspect of the project, and thank you to our hardworking editors who also have helped to translate and connect some of the dots. So many people connect to their heritage through food, through music. The Hungarian House sponsors beautiful dances, and we have film. And for my family, it really was art. And my grandmother was fortunate to have talent in the arts and to study it, and you'll see from some of the photos, it was really just how we were surrounded. So I just want to offer that art is a form of nourishment. And I think that that connection was part of what gave my grandmother to make some of the leaps that she made, and later on my mother as well. So these initial photos are of the group is my grandmother's nuclear family, the great-grandfather Mayfair and my great-grandmother Hermina. Want to give a shout out that Hermina went against her Orthodox Jewish mother and picked Mayfair, and he actually gave up the dowry because they wanted true love, and it worked out really well. And I just want to, as a contrast, show the second photo was kindly shared by the Budapest Orthodox Jewish Archive, and it was part of a mandatory meeting for the whole Jewish community during the communist regime. And you can really see that this does not look perhaps like the most forward-thinking group of people. Like, these are people who have already been through a lot, and many value the traditions, and yet you can see from our family photo that they were dressed in more modern clothes. They had gathered during the Golden Age of Budapest from Ukraine on this side, and the other side of the family from what's now Czech Republic. And they were trying to fit in. They were very involved in the Orthodox Jewish community and helped grow and then eventually rebuild Kaczynski Synagogue, and yet they also were engaging with, as they built businesses with their customers and employees who were outside the Jewish community. And that was actually a very important role later on as World War II arrived. So, as our helpful introduction explained, emigration to the U.S. was not easy. Hungary was not on the list of desired countries at the time. So my grandparents met in Budapest, and so they were, compared to their ancestors, much more urban. They grew up at a time that both their fathers' businesses were doing quite well. So it was kind of a glamorous, almost Kardashian lifestyle, but they also had a lot of grounding with education, and we'll see more later, a real commitment to giving back to the community. So they met and married in 37. My mother was born in 38, as she liked to say on Anschluss, when Austria was annexed with Nazi Germany. And out of this luxurious down comforter came a lot of changes. The excuse that my grandparents took that succeeded in them arriving in America was the 1939 World's Fair. The catch was that the local authorities decided that it wasn't necessary to bring their baby on a quote-unquote vacation. So they were separated throughout the war. And my great-grandfather quite generously basically sent all his children away. So we had United Kingdom for the son who was allowed to go to college, unlike the girls, who were considered not necessary to have more education. And my grandmother's younger sister had a long tour through South America and Central America before they were eventually reunited. So that is symbolized in the central photo there. After World War II, a branch of the family gathered in the United Kingdom, which was just a really precious opportunity. I do have telegrams related to my elder great aunt as she put it, in 1945, we have come through a terrible time, and also the arrival of my mother to the United States, which we were, and she was very privileged that her parents by then were part of the United States and could fast track her, so she did not have to linger in the refugee camps. And the great-grandfathers continued. Both their first wives passed away, and they had second marriages, and the postcard on the bottom wishes my grandmother a happy birthday. And on the lower right, actually, is these special cigarette case from my great-grandfather Vilmos's factory. And he was a visionary in terms of understanding the power of marketing, and he held competitions for artists to submit their designs, and some of them were so iconic that you can continue to find them now online. Various auction houses, etc., are still selling them. And Etsy has a digital download. So here, at this stage, we're into the 1950s, 60s, 70s, where my family's getting more integrated into American life. In the center, the Hungarian pattern is from my grandfather's import business. He had been a director of his father's company, which of course did not survive in our family under communism. So he started over, and he had a variety of import-export, but my grandmother saved a number of beautiful Hungarian Jews of America, which was a division of B'nai Zion, and the Americanized children teased them and said that the slogan was, Hungarians in America unite, you have nothing to lose but your accents. And I think that it's important from maybe a feminine power perspective that my grandmother worked incredibly hard to bring the community together, to unify, to raise money for causes they believed in. And I think for people coming, as was described in all these different waves of immigration, after some pretty shocking events, that it must have been quite a really helpful reception to get plugged into a community that was having social events where you could find people who shared your culture, spoke your language, helped you to find a job, housing, people met and married, etc. So even though she was a traditional housewife and doing what was expected in her old life as a genteel woman doing her volunteer work, I think it really had an impact on the community, and it gave a lot back to her and frankly grew her leadership skills. On the right, my mother is with her mother next to art, and they spent many, many hours in all the museums of New York City. My mother was a graduate of music and art for fine arts, and she said, you know, the Metropolitan Museum was just an extension of her schooling. And then down at the bottom is me with my grandmother against the very stylish 1970s curtains. And then here we really see quite literally, my grandmother's flowering. So the painting on the upper left is by my grandmother. Below is the announcement of the new art gallery, and we see a progression. She started showing art out of her family apartment as Mrs. Leslie Fay, and then eventually, when she opened the gallery, she became Mrs. Elizabeth Fay. So although she very much remained a soft-spoken leadership style, she definitely was affected by the societal changes in the U.S. of feminism. And then the woman at the top with her is a well-known American pop artist, Rita Kent, who became a personal and professional connection and represented in my grandmother's gallery. She was one of the 2 people actually in New York City who amazingly represented someone who was a globally known artist. And Rita ran into trouble as a Catholic sister because she went too far with using art for social advocacy and in many very humorous and heartfelt ways. So they found a connection. Right below is a classic piece of Rita's art where she talked about love, and she really wanted to make spirituality part of people's everyday life. And I think that that was an unusual combination of someone who had a
Catholic American background and my grandmother coming from a European Jewish background, but they saw how Crete also really wanted to keep her art affordable, so she stuck with lithographs and prints, and I think it made my grandmother happy in the gallery to bring the art to more people. The bottom smaller painting was donated in honor of my grandmother. It's by Bela Kadar, who actually was her relative by marriage, and I always grew up with the stories of how Kadar continued to create art even as he went through travails in the Budapest ghetto, etc. So there was, again, these themes of art and resilience and somehow creating something of beauty and connection. And the last photo is a group shot in front of the Brooklyn Bridge. And my ever-patient, non-Hungarian father, who spent many years and hours in and around the Hungarian community. So I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to share the stories in the book, and I look forward to reading the other 57 stories.
Thank you so much.